Afternoon, Bournemouth fans. Welcome to Cherries Red Army YouTube channel. I'm Kirk and welcome to another match review show. And AFC Bournemouth 0, Brentford 1. The continuous wins have gone. Brentford take all 3 points and do a double over Bournemouth in the Championship. We're going to go through the game as we normally do from start to finish. I've got Aaron with me. And what's your raw instant reaction as full-time whistle's just gone, Aaron?
Yeah, as I called it, it had a feeling of a bit of a subdued game. It wasn't, not a huge amount riding on it. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But yeah, I just had a feeling that certainly today and probably the next couple of games, there'll be players coming on, coming off, rested. So disappointing performance, but maybe let's get out of our system now.
We may not be happy, Cherries, then come final whistle, but we do appreciate you checking this video out, and still, hopefully, you'll give this video a like and also subscribe if you haven't already. But let's look into it then. Lineups live. The lineups were released. I had you on with me, Aaron. Now, Brentford went with a back three, which was what Benjamin Bloom sort of expected to happen in the match preview. And we had 4 changes. Now, unusual for Jonathan Woodgate with 7 consecutive wins, but maybe he had a reason just to change a few things up.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think that's going to happen over the next few games. Yeah, I mean, we can come on to who stayed on and who didn't go off later on, but as I said, I think Diego Rico is obviously forced on us. Adam Smith coming in for Jack Stacey, and then the usual rotation of Wilshere and Pearson, and Junior getting minutes.
So we're quite used to fast starts nowadays in that 7 consecutive run that we had, Aaron. And after 12 seconds, Wilshere would pick up the ball from the kickoff, play out to Rico, back in the team, a forward-thinking pass, Solanke through on goal, and 2 mistakes there from Solanke. Firstly, a bit rusty maybe early on in the game and didn't get the ball under control. And secondly, he could have got his head up and seen Stanislas to the right of him completely open. But within 12 seconds, we could have been 1-0 up.
Yeah, it was a very fast start, and heavy touch from Dom, early on, and then I think we had another kind of quick chance straight after that. So we definitely started on the front foot, and it looked like we were going to be at them at will in that early part of the game.
So there's lots of goals between both of these teams, something like 145 over the season. And early on, you thought there is going to be goals in this game, half chances maybe, but both teams were being proactive from the start. But the 7th minute would be the first big chance for AFC Bournemouth. Solanke would get himself in an attacking area, would sort of slide it round the defender. He probably wished he was sliding it to himself, but Stanislas got there probably just onside. Wet surface, Stanislas rusty, not sure. I actually think he tried to hit it too hard, Aaron, but he slipped, hit the ball onto his other foot, went wide, didn't hit the target.
Yeah, he's normally so composed in those situations as well, Junior. I mean, there's probably a few of our players you'd like that to fall to, and he's probably one of them. Whether it's just lack of match minutes or not sharp, but yeah, obviously hit his standing foot, and it looked atrocious, really. And who knows what would have happened if that had gone in, because it would have complemented the fast start that we had. But yeah, no, it was a nice move. But unfortunately, the finish from Junior just wasn't great.
I didn't expect Brentford to come here and put a wall up, and they didn't do that. And in the 12th minute, they would sort of get their first decent chance in the game. It'd be a cross that would come over, I think, from Ivan Toney, a head back, and Forbes would sort of get his foot on it while he was running onto it. Cleared off the line by Steve Cook, so it's still 0-0, but we've seen Cookie clear balls off the line many times before.
Yeah, they were looking dangerous, actually. After that initial spell, they were getting more in the game, getting wide. Obviously, Tony putting himself about in the box, and we just didn't seem to have that solidity in midfield. It was just letting them cross the ball quite easily, and obviously Cookie in the right place at the right time there to clear off the line. But it certainly looked like they were a danger for sure, and that we have to obviously up our game.
In the 20th minute, then, we'd get Phil Billings, someone who's trying to pick himself up in pockets and be influential, and he'd feed a ball through and it'd get to Stanislas. Now, he was quite wide of an angle of the area, and I actually thought he could have drove on and gone for a shot, but actually he tried to square it to Mbeumo. I thought it was the wrong decision. Again, Stan, not the best decision he'd made in the game at that point, but a chance at 20th minute.
Yeah, it was a lovely move, actually. It was a one-touch flick through to him, and he had acres of space in that right. And I also thought he was going to drive and get a shot away, maybe because if it was on the other side, he probably would have done that. But again, I put it down to a bit of match sharpness, which is one of the reasons I think Jonathan Woodgate gave him 90 minutes today, because we need him back to what he can be. And it was a good opportunity to do that. But yeah, poor decision making. If he's going to make a decision to cross the ball, which wasn't necessarily the wrong decision, the execution of it was poor. And it's frustrating. I'm sure he was equally frustrated as well. He obviously wants to make an impression being back in the side, but no, against Brentford, and this obviously shows if we play them again, we've got to take our chances when they come.
Every time we seem to have a chance, Brentford would go down the other end. 2 minutes later, the 22nd minute, Brentford would get a chance outside the box. Janssen get a shot away, nice and low. Begovic got down nice and low as well and tipped it wide, but they were showing that they were dangerous again.
Yeah, I mean, we'll come on to the stats at the end, but they were having lots of shots on target, and Bego made a great save there. And although the actual possession-wise, it was quite equal, the amount of who had the ball, we weren't really testing the keeper, and they tested us quite a few times. So, fair play to them, because they were incisive and looking to get their shots away.
We talked about in lineups live potentially players like Janssen being a little bit aggressive in this match, and he'll pick up a yellow for dangerous foul play. He could have had one on Solanke a couple of minutes earlier, but he did pick up a yellow about just after the 30th minute mark, I think. But that would be he would regret that later on in the game.
Yeah, without being cynical, I mean, it was the elbow on Dom wasn't just like a flash elbow, but he was running into him, leaning into him. On Sky, actually, they were saying, did he mean that or not? It was off the ball. Yeah, I think throughout the game, if I'm being honest, they seemed to. I mean, they weren't doing what we thought they might do and go absolutely recklessly in, but they were definitely more aggressive. They were trying to rile our players up, and there were quite a few harsh challenges going in there. So, and they did what I thought they would do. They were going in hard, and if they were going to injure one of our players, and I'm sure they'd be happy about that. But they were games. They were playing the game and getting away with it for a lot of the time.
So from the good of Steve Cook would then be the concerning part of Steve Cook, and a chance again for Brentford from the midfield, played through. Cook would sort of misread it. Tony would get lots of space, one-on-one with Begovic. Didn't really get the connection he probably wanted to. Looking for his 30th goal of the season. Begovic would save it, sitting on the ball and almost popping the ball, but still 0-0.
Yeah, Cookie didn't have one of his best games. There was a header later on, which you come to when it was too weak and let him in, and that was another error from him. And yeah, as you said, Tony one-on-one, put your house on him to score, but maybe a bit of lack of confidence because he hasn't scored for a few games. Asma did well, but to be honest with you, it was almost like a pass back to him. It didn't really connect at all. So yeah, we got away with that one for sure. But again, it's just if we're not on it, I think the theme is if we're not on it, then a good team like Brentford will punish us, and they almost did.
If you're checking into this video about 8 minutes long, for whatever reason you fast forwarded, this is a Bournemouth channel, but 2 more chances would come to Brentford just before half time. Canos would get a shot away, deflected, and Tony would drag one wide as well. So leading into half time, only 0-0, but the chances were going for the opposition.
Yeah, I was fearful this would happen. I'm not saying the players are switched off. I don't think Woodgate will allow them to do that, but I just think in the back of their heads, they've been on such a great run, and with automatic pretty much out of reach, it might have felt a bit like job done, and maybe that's in parts onto the players. And against Brentford, in the back of their minds, don't want to get injured, don't want to do this, don't want to do that, and they know that the game against Brentford, if we do play them in the playoffs, are going to be far more meaningful. So I just felt at half time that it was just a bit, it wasn't. No player was outstanding. The passing was poor. Too many, easy things given away, and we just weren't seen to be clicking at all. And it was disappointing.
And actually, at half time, I had a look at the stats, Aaron, and I think Brentford had 12 shots. We had 1. None on target for us, 3 on target for them. So when we came out the second half, I was hoping we were going to be a little bit more proactive. We were going to try and look a bit more adventurous. 46th minute, we would get a corner 1 minute after half time. And we have been poor from corners this season. And Rico would try a sort of 1-2 short corner, give it away. Now, as bad as it was, let's give credit to Rico. He did track him for nearly 100 yards to win the ball back.
Yeah, I mean, set pieces have been so poor all season. It's just so frustrating, whether it's Stan or Arnie or Brooks, whoever. I just don't understand what we have this issue with taking set pieces, and if when we try to do clever ones like that, they're just not coming off. And as you say, that they broke away, and it could have been far worse. But to give credit to Diego, he did track his man, and he actually got fouled in the end. So it's just frustrating. You just want to do the basics, and sometimes just get the ball in the box.
Briefly then, 4 minutes later, that yellow card that Janssen picked up would end up being a second yellow card. Got himself positionally in the wrong place from a long ball, brought down Mbeumo. No arguments, sending off?
Yeah, it was a definite second yellow for sure. And you thought we'd kick on from there. Yeah, I mean, as you say, it could have been his third yellow in all honesty. So I don't know, he seemed to smile and laugh when he went off. He seemed to think it was funny, but yeah, it was a bit of a strange moment. You thought we'd kick on from there. You thought they might go a bit more defensive and that it would just be ours to win. So from that moment on, I thought, let's as we did against Norwich, let's make this count.
Playing against 10 men then, we're looking for a little bit more quality in the final third. Substitutions would come, 60th minute, Stacey for Smith, quite generic, quite, like for like. And Billing for Brooks. Any thoughts on that? Sorry, Brooks for Billing.
Yeah, I'm not sure on a Stacey for Smith one. I'm not, unless Smith has had a bit of a knock. I'm not entirely sure the point of that one because I know they kind of reversed that on against Millwall, but don't really see why take your fullback off. We didn't play the game before. It's a bit of an odd one. No, Billing I was happy with to go off number one because he wasn't playing as well as he has been. And number two, let's protect him as well. He's played a lot of minutes. He played the whole game on Wednesday, so no arguments with that. And Brooks was the obvious one to come on there. We haven't mentioned Ben Pearson yet, but I mean, as I said, I was happy he was on the bench because I don't want him to get injured. But boy, did it show how much we missed him. And Arnie was still on the pitch at this stage, so I was wondering how long he was going to go.
The only other argument I'd have for the Billing going off as well is that Stanislas needs the minutes, and I think Woodgate's trying to get that into him, and he was poor today, and maybe he was trying to get him more in the game because he'd been so poor wide. Would you agree with that?
We've spoken many times about how Stan is just probably the most ineffective on the right. He wasn't going to go to the left unless Arnie came off, which he didn't. So putting him in the hole there, picking up those pockets of space was gave him a chance. No, I've got no complaints with Stan playing 90 minutes. I think if this game meant anything, and I mean that in the loosest sense of the word, if it really meant something, he would have made different changes for sure, or not made them. So on the basis of the fact that he needed minutes, no arguments for Stan playing 90, however poor he was, because hopefully he can only get better from there. Although later on, I think when Jack went off, Stan went to centre midfield. I don't know, and then Lerma went off. So it was all a bit strange. I'm not sure who was playing where, but no, Stan had 90, and I think that's fair enough.
So he still had the extra man, obviously, and the next chance will come to Brentford again, and you spoke about it earlier. Steve Cook trying to head it back to Begovic, a chance for fours, lacked composure over the bar. Again, 0-0, but we could have gone behind. Yeah,
I mean, it was uncharacteristic again for Steve Cook to make more than one mistake in the game, certainly. And yeah, let's get it out of our system. That's all I can say. I mean, it seems to be what I'm saying a lot here, but I just feel that, you know what, let's just move on from this. That's all you can do. But yeah, it was a he should have got more on that. It was a tight angle. It would have done well to have scored anyway, but luckily blasted it over. But again, another escape.
76th minute, Emiliano, I think it was, had a dipping shot that Begovic dealt with, but a minute later, Tony would get himself involved again. And I thought Tony had a good game for Brentford all round. There's parts of him that people might not be happy with, but he got himself involved. A couple of options he was trying to make happen, and then he got a shot away. Begovic would say, but Mbeumo, a player that's come off the bench of Brentford, scored the goal, would end up being the winner. 1-0 to Brentford. Yeah, and it was coming, even with the 10 men, it was coming. I think actually it was Diego who lost his runner, and actually Sam Surridge ended up back in that left back position. I'm not sure what he was doing there, but he was trying to cover. So I'm not sure where Diego was because I haven't actually looked at it in depth. But yeah, Bego did all he could, really couldn't do any more than that, and obviously Mbeumo got to the rebound first. So sloppy, poor goal for us to concede, but a few minutes before that I'd called it. I could see Brentford nicking that, and yeah, they got their noses in front. Ben Pearson would then come on in the 80th minute, like you said, and get your thoughts on that as well. But from one evening against Millwall where we had movement, energy, triangles, just flair all around the pitch, to lack of all of that today. I mean, do you put it down to all of those changes and that lack of consistency that they've been used to for the last 7 games? Can we blame that, or is it something else?
I think we played Wednesday night. Brentford played the day before. And so to play Wednesday night and then Saturday lunchtime, it's like less than 2.5 days in between matches. So that's not easy. That's not an excuse for everything, but that's not easy. So I think there might have been some tiredness there. I do think still there is some, not complacency is the wrong word, but in the back of their minds, they know that there are far bigger games to come, and that their fantastic run and the performances that we've been salivating over have got us into that position where there are now more meaningful games to come. So I just think in the back of their minds, I don't. You can argue there are too many changes, but I think we have to do that now. You're not going to play your first 11 for the next 3 games for 90 minutes. For the reasons we've spoken about. So yeah, I mean, we might have lost a bit of momentum, but I don't think they were the wrong decisions necessarily. I mean, Arnie stayed on for the full 90. I'd argue against that, but he looks like he's come through unscathed, so that's okay. Other than that, yeah, I'm not sure what else I'll put it down to. I think it's a number of things and a combination of all of those.
I don't always get frustrated when Arnie is not effective, and he was very non-effective, but he normally comes alive and tries to create something. But I think it's probably up there with one of his poorest performances all season. I didn't see us knocking the door down. We didn't really create anything at the end, but I think maybe a chance for David Brooks, half chance, but didn't get a good connection on it. But the game would finish 1-0. Yeah,
I'm getting back to Arnie. It's interesting because against Norwich, Aarons is probably one of the best right backs in the division, and they were doubling up on him with Aarons, and I'm not sure who it was on the right hand side, and he was having a field day. So the fact that Brentford did a job on him doesn't really mean much, because Norwich tried to do that as well, and Arnie was unbelievably electrifying that night. And especially as the marker that Janssen, who was marking Danjuma, went off, thought he'd had the run of the green, but he's allowed an off day. He's been outstanding for us. As I said, he's got us into this position. And I'd rather he had an off day today. But yeah, ending 1-0, it's an odd feeling. It's a shame that the winning run and the unbeaten run has come to an end. But I feel that this could actually, in the cold light of day, not be such a bad thing. We were due a bad performance. We were due just this sort of result and bad performance, and it's better now than it would be in the playoffs for sure. And maybe it's to kick up the backside that they need, that to realise that if they're not at their game, they will not go up and they will lose to a team like Brentford. So, as you see, looking at those stats there, I just think it could be a wake up call for us. And I think we've got to move on and take it as a positive and not get too down about it.
If you didn't watch the game, those stats are quite damning, and that is how the game played out. But funnily enough, Aaron, 58% for ball possession. We've been there many times this season where we've lost a football match with that percentage.
Yeah, it did feel like it feels like a long time ago now. It did feel like those games earlier in the season. But yeah, I don't think necessarily the bubbles burst. I just think it was one of those games. The whole atmosphere around the game, just even to me as a supporter, just felt different, and something was just a bit subdued, and the urgency and the tenacity, and just something wasn't quite there, and it had the feelings of some sort of a training game in some respects. Certainly from us, it just didn't seem like we had the real tenaciousness and the real will to win, which Brentford seemed to have.
Like we always do, we still put a poll out for man the match, and AFC Bournemouth 0, Brentford 1. There was 3 contenders: Diego Rico, Asmir Begovic and Carter Vickers, and with 55.6%, it goes to Asmir Begovic. Some good saves today and kept that score down to 1-0, Aaron.
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else it could have been apart from Asmir. He was the only one who really did anything of any note. Wasn't really at fault for the goal, made a number of saves, number of good punches and collections from set pieces, and yeah, he fully deserved that. And with their numerous shots on target, he was always going to be man of the match for us today.
Let's take a quick look at that refreshed table then. Our playoffs is pretty much guaranteed, as we knew, with the goal difference that we had, but that pops us into 4th. those row of greens along the right-hand side will turn red at some point, but Brentford still an outside chance for automatics, depending on what happens between Watford and Millwall. But yeah, that's currently the table as it stands, Aaron.
Yeah, yeah, as I said, Reading can't catch us unless they win all their games by 5 or 6-0. Obviously, I would like to think we'd at least pick up at least a point against Wickham and Stoke, if not all 6. So not worried from that point of view. It's just a case of where we're going to finish now. I think Brentford's game in hand now over us is against Rotherham at home on Tuesday. Expect them to win that. So it might be difficult to get third place now for us. Although Brentford play Watford at some stage, which if Watford don't win today could be quite tasty. But yeah, and Swansea could well beat Reading and go above us. So where we're going to finish, I'm not sure. But as I said, we'll hopefully win our next 2 games and see where it takes us.
I'm not sure this is a true reflection on the playoff situation if we do meet them. I have said for quite a few weeks now, I'd rather play them over 2 legs and give us 180 minutes to try and get a job done on them than rather play them over 190 minutes and it could hinder on a decision or a mistake. And that's sort of how I felt today. I mean, how's your viewing on that? Would you prefer to play Brentford over 2 games or 1 game if you were to meet them?
I don't know. It's a difficult one. I think at Wembley I would fancy us more against Swansea and Barnsley at Wembley in a one-off game than Brentford, clearly. But having said that, playing them over 2 legs is probably going to be more difficult than the other 2 anyway. So I think whenever we play Brentford, that's going to be the hardest game. Hopefully, I don't get to eat my words there. I just think we have to take whoever we get. And I think what we need to do is maybe use this as motivation. If I was Jonathan Woodgate, I would play a few clips of Ivan Toney getting in our faces. I would play the clips of the Brentford players celebrating at the end like they won the league. And play that before we play them in the playoffs and say, they've done a double over us, which isn't nice. But let's see what happens when the game that really matters. So maybe, as I said, it's the motivation that we need to and no complacency whatsoever, and let Brentford have a full sense of security if that's what makes them happy.
And very, very briefly, a week's break now until Wickham next week. I don't think the decisions that Woodgate's going to make is going to get any easier because it's a balancing act between now and those playoffs starting.
Yeah, it's, as I said, half of me just wants to fast forward now, and I felt like this before today's game, if I'm being honest. Just fast forward for the next couple of weeks and get to the playoffs, because then you don't have those decisions to make. I think it's going to be difficult. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if someone like Surridge started at Wickham, maybe give Dom a rest. But then, as you say, there's a week now in between each game, so there's no midweek game. So, in theory, from a resting point of view, you might not need it. He might now want to get back that momentum that we've just slightly lost. So he might go strong against Wickham, get a win, and then maybe tinker a bit against Stoke, or he might just want to play the other team for the next 2 games. I'm not sure whether the result will have changed his outlook on things now, to either wrestle back momentum or just to do what he did today and rotate a bit.
Aaron, thanks for coming on Lineups Live and this review. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I'm sure I'll catch up with you before the Wickham game as well.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Kirk. And keep the faith, everybody. More important games to come.
And thank you to everyone who's joined us for this game week, especially for the match preview. That included Mark Pugh. So Eddie Howe's record is intact. He's got it in his pocket still. 145 goals between these teams in the Championship, but only 1 for Brentford this afternoon was enough to win the football match. They take the 3 points. But we move on to Wickham next week. There will be another match preview, review, and Lineups Live. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you on the next video. Up Cherries.